Welcome to the Vibrant Life Radio Show with Dr. Brian Ullman.
Welcome, everybody. Your host, Dr. Brian Ullman with Vibrant Life Radio Show. And as usual, my lovely co-host, wife, and life partner, Julian. How are you doing today, dear? Fantastic. Well, we have a wonderful and exciting show today. I have a good friend of mine and colleague. I respect this man on so many different levels. He is an innovator. He is a healer. He is brilliant. I'm speaking of Dr. Michael J. Lewandowski. He is a pain psychologist, which I rely on very, very heavily. As many of you know, at the TMJ Therapy and Sleep Center, I work with a lot of chronic pain patients. You know, when that jaw gets out of alignment, that creates a lot of problems. And here's a gentleman I met many, many years ago. I was so glad to. In fact, met you first here in Reno at the American Academy of Pain Management meeting that was held back then. I believe it was the MGM back then. And it was a great meeting. And I said, well, I wanted to meet you. And lo and behold, you are located in Reno. So I was very, very grateful to have gotten a chance to meet you. But this guy he's written a book, the Chronic Pain Care Workbook, which we will be talking about, has a private practice. And he taught me many, many things about skills and pain management, and not to let pain control the patient, but how best to teach patients how to control their pain. So, Dr. Lewandowski, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what you've been up to.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ullman. It's a pleasure to be here today. I actually was introduced and kind of began my experience with pain management and with pain probably about 30 years ago, and it was not really in medical school or in graduate school. I was a linebacker for the University of Nevada and played football up here in Mackey Stadium. So what I began to realize that when we would win a game, I would have less pain than when we'd lose a game. And so from the very beginning, it became apparent to me that pain was not just a biological experience. There was a psychological and social component to it also. So the meaning of pain, I think, was fascinating to me.
That's interesting. On the gridiron, certainly you feel pain and you don't feel pain. And I too have had that same experience. When you win, you don't feel pain as much. What is the process? What do we go through when we have successes? Now we can take the success at Mackey Stadium and we can say, hey, I did a great job at work today. I got a raise. I got the promotion. Or gee, I bought that new car that I've always wanted. What psychological effect does that have on us? Does that just reorient our focus on maybe the pain that we're dealing with?
Well, the context and the meaning of pain is extremely critical. When I meet people for the first time who come to my office, I often ask them, do you have is there anybody or anything that is a cause of your pain? We know from a lot of research that if the pain is a fault of somebody else, if, for example, an employer didn't put salt on the ice and they ended up slipping on it, and there was some trauma involved, that the impact of that, the meaning of the pain, plays a huge role in how they then handle that pain problem over the course of that time with the pain. So
it's what if you are the cause of your own pain? It wasn't something that maybe somebody did to you, but just say you slipped on your own ice.
Correct, and that changes the context. But what I've learned over the last 28 years is that pain definitely has a biological and physical base, but the sociological, the physical, the contextual part of pain also plays a very huge role. And that's what I do as kind of a pain psychologist. Frequently when people are referred to me, they're sometimes pretty defensive because they say my pain's real. Mm-hmm. It's not in my head, and I quickly try to put that to rest. And I say, I know your pain's real. I've never met, out of the 7,000 people I've seen in the last 28 years, I've never met anyone who doesn't have real pain. I said, and pain often interferes with your day-to-day activities. Pain interferes with your ability to want to do. I said, frequently people with pain, they're depressed, they're sad, they're irritable, they're cranky. And by this time, they're nodding their head, agreeing with some of those statements, kind of warming up to the work that I can do for them. And I tell them that pain affects their social life. It affects their family, their loved ones. It can also affect their employment. A number of people that I see are injured workers, and so now they don't have that social meaning. They don't have that self-esteem of doing something every day. And that plays a huge role also in their adapting to and coping with pain.
No, one thing you taught me many years ago was that people, sometimes pain will own the person. And one of the big differences, and I'd like you to address this before we go on, is that one of the biggest differences between, say, psychology and psychiatry is that you work, and you've done a marvelous job on so many of my patients, You develop coping skills. Maybe we don't ameliorate the pain. And some pain we can't ameliorate. A lot we can, but some we can't. But it's teaching people how to cope. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, the first part of your question, which is always an interesting one, is what is the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist? And I typically say that's about $50. But after I explain to them that a psychiatrist goes to medical school and learns about the body and the physiology and typically use as prescribed medications, psychologists go to graduate school and human behavior, how people change, and so. Again, the context from a psychologist working with people with pain, it's to kind of expand that beyond just the biological part. And much of what I do is self-management. I try to teach people how to manage, cope, and deal with rather than fix, cure, and eliminate. And that's a big first step.
Yeah, how would somebody know if pain is affecting their lives? Because as we age, we fall, we don't heal as we used to, or there are other things that other pathologies that we deal with, and sometimes pain can consume a human being. Is that would you agree with that?
Absolutely. With the variable there that I look at is how much has pain interfered with their ability to do what they want to do.
And how would we know? Is there a self-assessment? Is there a way to judge ourselves? How do we know if maybe we need a little help with our coping skills?
Well, there are a number of different assessment devices out there that takes a look at how pain's affected their life. And indeed, my dissertation up at the University of Nevada was the development of the Behavioral Assessment of Pain Questionnaire. And it's attempting to try to find those factors that may be exacerbating or maintaining someone's pain problem. And I've embedded that questionnaire in the book, the Chronic Pain Care Workbook, which allows them to then score themselves on these various scales, if you will, such as activity interference, such as avoidance of activities due to pain.
If you'd like to get a hold of Dr. Lewandowski, what's the best way for somebody? I have a copy here in my hands. It's called the Chronic Pain Care Workbook, and it's an amazing education tool for a patient, self-assessment, and also the assessment of loved ones. What is the best way, Dr. Lewandowski, for people not only to get your book, but how to get a hold of you?
Well, locally, you can get a hold of me. My office is 775-828-2955. The book is on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It's also now an ebook. So if you have the Nook or the readers, the iBook, it can be downloaded to an e-reader.
That's fantastic. So again, if you want to reach Dr. Lewandowski, if you're just joining us, it's Vibrant Life Radio Show. Our guest today is Dr. Michael Lewandowski, who is a behavioral pain psychologist and expert. He is the author of the Behavioral Assessment of Pain, and he has a book. His book is the Chronic Pain Care Workbook, which you can get a hold of at Amazon or Barnes & Noble as an ebook or in print. If you want to get a hold of him, again, it's 775-828-2955.
Just a real quick question on the ebook. Does that include any of all of the worksheets and things like that? So if somebody's listening right now and they were going to download it, that includes all
There's a link to a website where they can download the actual
the forms as well
and the exercises. Yeah.
Oh, that is fantastic. What a great way to introduce people to this book, because many people won't go out and purchase it.
There's over 100 million Americans that have chronic pain of various sorts, so it's a huge problem. In fact, in its many forms, pain causes more disability than cancer and heart disease combined. So it's an important field.
Well, it also affects your family life too. I know in many of our chronic pain patients, we've seen them just they're so devastated because they can't take care of their kids. They're no longer interacting with their entire family, and just that, taking their family away, it seems to be a huge hit when it comes to trying to get better and moving forward with life. It's just one of those things that especially for women, seems to be really devastating.
Yeah, pain strains relationships. And indeed, I've never met anybody that in a short period of time, in an acute phase, isn't caring and trying to help someone with pain. But when pain becomes chronic, which can be defined as 3 months or longer now, it can become debilitating and it can strain relationships.
What are the behaviors that are most commonly expressed by chronic pain patients?
There's a concept in my field, we call it pain behaviors. And so anything that a person would emit or do that would allow someone else to look at them and assess that they're in pain would be considered a pain behavior. So moaning, wincing, limping, walking with a cane, all of those are pain behaviors. And one of the goals is to try to help people reduce the amount of pain behaviors with the notion that you don't want to become your pain. Many of the folks that I work with, unfortunately, over years, become their pain. And
Right.
my job is to help them regain kind of who they were before the pain problem and develop that rather than have pain being the central feature.
Right. You see that even with surgical patients, which is kind of, not a chronic pain issue, but after a knee surgery or hip surgery or back surgery where they're walking either with a limp or with a, like kind of bent over, that type of thing. And even after the pain's gone, they're still doing that as a behavior from the surgery. It's really strange.
And you could see where maintaining that for a period of time could actually then create other problems.
Oh, sure. Compensating on, many other levels. So, yeah, it's understandable.
Well, I'm sure there's a question I have because I am trained. Certainly don't have your expertise. And there are certain personality traits that may exhibit or deal with pain in different ways. And when we come back from the break, I'd like Dr. Lewandowski to talk about the personality traits that he sees creating more of the problem than solving the problem. Again, Vibrant Life Radio Show. Back from the break, we'll be talking about personality traits with Dr. Lewandowski.
Consign Furniture has grown to be the largest consignment store in Northern Nevada, with over 23,000 square feet of showroom to choose from.
Living rooms, dining rooms, bedrooms, and so much more. They offer all types of household items at 70% off retail prices.
Consign Furniture has new inventory arriving daily. Come in and find that special piece you're looking for, or furniture for your whole house.
Consign Furniture offers pickup and delivery service to make it easy and convenient to spruce up your home or even get rid of things you're not using.
Do you have items in storage costing you money each month?
Don't worry, Consign Furniture can help. Nervous about having strangers come to your house?
Don't worry, Consign Furniture can help.
Located at 2335 Market Street in Reno. Stop by today or call them at 775-824-0222 and let them help take the guesswork out of selling your furniture or household items.
Easy way to sell, smart way to buy. 775-824-0222. As an American, you have certain inalienable rights. The right to protect your privacy, the right to protect your identity, the right to protect the delicate nature of you and your clients' transactions. At American Document Destruction, their bonded and insured staff protect your rights by destroying your sensitive information, paper, media, and even hard drives. American Document Destruction offers on-site shredding, pickup, or drop-off service for both businesses and residents in Northern Nevada and bordering areas of Northern California. They can come to you, or you can drop off your material at 480 Coney Island Drive in Sparks. American Document Destruction will issue a certificate of destruction and satisfaction is guaranteed. For all of your information destruction needs, know your rights. Let American Document Destruction protect them. You can find them on the web at addnv.com or call them at 775-358-2323. That's 775-358-2323.
At Bloom Bake Shop in Reno, our goal is to help you celebrate all of your special occasions. Whether you're running short on time or you just don't have the skills or desire to bake fresh, homemade desserts for your friends and family, I'm here to help. This is Chandra with Bloom Bake Shop and Floral, and I've been baking ever since I could reach the kitchen counter. I bake everything from cookies and birthday cakes for your celebrations to wedding cakes and flowers for the most special day of your life. I was raised here in Reno, and my reputation depends on providing the best desserts you've ever tasted. If you'd like to set up a tasting for your upcoming wedding cake, or if you'd just like to satisfy your sweet tooth, let me help you celebrate your next special occasion. You can give me a call at 775-287-8905, or you can see Bloom Bake Shop on the web at www.bloomreno.com. Let Bloom Bake Shop make your day a little sweeter.
Welcome back to the Vibrant Life Radio Show with Dr. Brian Allman, your host, my co-host, and beautiful wife, Julene. And we're sitting here also with a very expert colleague of mine, Dr. Michael Lewandowski, who is he's a doctor. He has his PhD in psychology, and he is an expert in pain psychology and behaviors. And before the break, I teased you with a little thought. You had mentioned in one of your articles, Dr. Lewandowski, that personality traits can be part of the problem. So what are some of the personality traits that you see contribute to pain and or actually help ameliorate pain?
Well, it's interesting. We've done a lot of research. There really isn't a pain-prone personality. that you'd find in DSM-5, which is our diagnostic categories. What I've seen, though, after 28 years is some patterns. And one of the most common pattern is an individual who, interestingly enough, is a high control person. They like to be in charge. They like to be able to control everything. So they get or they develop an injury that becomes chronic in nature, and they, in a sense, fight. They challenge. They want to control. They want to get rid of the pain. And while that's a wonderful quality, and most people that have that drive to want to be type A and control do very well in life, when it comes to dealing with chronic pain, they struggle because, in a sense, they never can totally get rid of the pain. And as a result, they set themselves up for a pattern of overdoing and then crashing down, having kind of overdone it. So the typical example would be someone who, let's take a female who enjoys working in the house and develops a pain problem and now has trouble because she's not able to get all the things done she's wanted to get done. And what may happen is she gets so frustrated, she just says, the heck with it. Damn the torpedoes, I'm going to do it. Goes out, washes the floor, does 3 loads of laundry, gets all the windows cleaned up, pushes through the pain, feels good at the end of the morning or end of the afternoon when she's got it all done, but then collapses in pain because she's overdone it. She's, in essence, become a poor pacer. But she loves the fact that she got everything done and was able to control and get all that done. So that sets up this interesting pattern of overdoing and underdoing, which ends up, ironically, perpetuating her problem.
That's very interesting because I have to counsel my patients almost on a daily basis or counsel some patient every day on the fact that if they have a true TMJ problem, and we start to manage their problem, the cause of the problem, not just supplement pills, but we manage the orthopedic problem, we start to reduce their level of pain. Now, maybe they're only 30% better, but they're doing 100% more. And so I have to tell people, that's fine. You've got to stay with, I use a story. Years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting Annika Sorenstam. I used to be a competitive golfer and used to practice a lot, and I was up at Montreux at the time, and Annika Sorenstam was up there practicing. And she has a very distinctive swing, and it's very controlled, almost in slow motion. And so I know Bear, my son, was up there, and we introduced ourselves, and I said, well, what's the key to your control and your success? And she said, in her accent, she said, well, I stay within my 5s. I said, stay within my 5s? What does that mean? And she explained, if you swing as hard as you can, and you call that a 10, hard as you can is a 10, all right? What I try to do is always stay within 5. I swing at a level of 5 all the time. So it's staying within your 5s. And I tell that story at my office at the TMJ Therapy and Sleep Center because I'll have people that start to get better, and I guess the surgeons version of this story would be, well, people will come back and they'll blow their stitches out because they felt better and now they're blowing, now they're doing too much. So how much of a part of your counsel is, as you feel better, relish the improvement, but you're still healing?
It is. It's true. People will want to be their old self again. So they want to fly at 35,000 feet. So I've learned maybe helping people with techniques of using timers where it goes off after 25 minutes, and then it serves as an audio reminder to whatever you're doing, stop and take a break, because people will push through their pain to achieve that final goal, thinking that no pain, no gain, but in essence, they're inadvertently reinforcing the problem. So,
what other than a timer, are there other things maybe I could use in my clinic to counsel patients besides the Annika Sorenstam story? I mean, you're feeling better, you want to get, and from what I'm hearing you say, it's those type A plus personalities that will feel 10% better, yet blow through 90% of what.
So you have to find that balance. I mean, they want to be more productive, and that's usually another key word to that kind of a trait or that pattern is they want to be productive, and that's a wonderful thing. But it's when you're down for 3 days after having done something, your productivity is not very high. So, intellectually being able to kind of hook in with them and realize that in the long run, if they pace themselves, they can get more done than if it's a start and stop kind of a pattern. So, it's trying to actively engage their mind through intellectually understanding this. And then the hard part is actually translating it into behavior and action. And
There's always a big Grand Canyon leap for some people between knowledge and implementation. And I think I suffer from, being a little type A.
Yeah.
I always thought being a little OCD just made me a producer, just made me a workaholic.
Well, it's a valued thing for many of us, especially in this culture. Yeah. But what I try to do is blend, I call it control-based pain strategies with acceptance-based pain strategies. So there are some ideas like activity pacing, like modifying what you do under the control-based kind of a model. The equally important side, though, is the idea of looking at acceptance and saying, hey, this is what I may have, so how can I live with this?
Without giving away names, of course. We don't want to violate HIPAA here on our radio show, Vibrant Life Radio Show. Can you give us an example of what you're talking about?
I had a lady who was a long-distance runner. She was a marathon runner. And she, with her pain problem, she had a couple surgeries in her back, and her surgeon said, really, marathon running is out. And she was devastated. She was depressed. You can imagine all the emotional experiences she had with losing that part of her life. In this case, what I tried to do is to help her realize that maybe we can modify what a marathon is. Instead of running those 20-plus miles, maybe she could take a look at walking a certain amount of distance. In other words, not reaching the marathon level, but just being able to still engage in some movement activities in her life. And break that down. Another example I had is a golfer. It fits right into your world. Injured guy had a 4-level fusion, and he wasn't going to be able to swing a golf club off the tee. But in his mind, it was all or nothing. I either played 18 holes or I can't play golf. And he came in depressed saying, I can't play golf. Well, we tried to talk a little bit about how he could engage golf back in his life without playing 18, 36 holes, a day. And it turned out that if he agreed that if he went to the putting green and practiced with his friends, called them up at 9 in the morning, they went out and just played for half an hour, a little game on the putting green, he wouldn't hurt his back. He involved the social part of his life back again. And the loser had to buy iced tea up at the clubhouse where they watched Tiger Woods play on the TV that afternoon.
How often is it the activity or just the socialization of the activity that is important?
Well, many people with chronic pain, their world shrinks. And so their social life starts to die. And I talked about earlier the concept of pain behaviors. Sometimes people don't know how to interact with them after 6 months, a year in chronic pain, and they kind of don't want to be around them. They don't know what to say or do. So their social life shrinks, and that usually is a fertile ground for depression and a vicious cycle of different problems that occur. So mood plays a huge role. 70% of the people that I see have either anxiety, depression, or interestingly enough, anger. Anger is a huge issue that I see. And part of it is they're mad at their bodies for letting their bodies letting them down. They may be angry with their doctors who haven't fixed and cured them yet.
Or the cause, the slip and fall, like you mentioned.
Or the meaning of exactly, I'm angry because my employer didn't put the salt on the ice. Anger is a huge issue.
So that must be part of what you counsel them about, is letting go of that anger, that issue.
Certainly addressing those, all three of those moods is very important. And another big issue, and I know you are certainly appreciative of this, is sleep. People with chronic pain do not sleep well. And sleep is like putting gas in the gas tank every night. If you're not refueling, you don't have the energy to do anything in the next day. So a lot of pain management is really fatigue and energy management, where we look at sleep.
It's also when the body heals at its best. So if you're not sleeping and you're not giving your body time to rest and heal, obviously you're healing a lot slower than you would.
Exactly. So there's an awful lot to do. I mean, as a pain psychologist, there's fertile ground in so many areas, and people, for the most part, they appreciate that. And they realize that I try to share with them it's a team approach. It's not any one person, one physician or one therapist that's going to make the difference. It's when we can all work together in an interdisciplinary fashion that I see the most benefit that comes.
Well, I know in your work that you try to work patients not to make them dependent upon seeing you 3 times a week for the rest of their life, but you work on self-management approaches. And I think the best thing you can do is help give patients or people skills to diagnose themselves to a degree once you increase their body of knowledge, their scope of their abilities to cope with their pain. And hopefully when we come back from the break, we can talk about some of those self-management approaches.
Yeah, and maybe some sources that are local where people can find some help as well.
So everybody, it's a Vibrant Life radio show. If you just tuned in, we're talking to Dr. Michael Lewandowski. If you have a phone call, if you have a question for Dr. Lewandowski, who is a pain psychologist expert, he wrote the book on pain, the Chronic Pain Care Workbook, which you can get at Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Give us a call here at the studio at 775-827-8900. Again, give us a call, 775-827-8900. When we get back from the break, we're going to talk about self-management approaches to chronic pain.
If you or someone you love suffers from the devastating effects of a TMJ disorder or obstructive sleep apnea, we have good news. There's hope. Going from doctor to doctor looking for relief but not getting answers only adds to the pain. At the TMJ Therapy and Sleep Center, we would like you to get to know us, what we do, and how we can help you move beyond jaw pain, headaches, sleep disorders, and medication so that you can enjoy a more vibrant life. Dr. Allman is not only a general dentist, but one of the foremost experts in the country in the field of TMJ disorders and obstructive sleep apnea. Utilizing the most state-of-the-art technology, we have the tools to accurately diagnose the cause of your condition. The TMJ Therapy and Sleep Center listens to you and gives you real answers to your most important questions. What really matters is that you get the help you need. Call us at 825-7200 or visit us at our website, tmjreno.com. That's tmjreno.com, because you deserve a more healthy, vibrant life.
Think local and support our local economy. Shop smart and get the best local daily deal at bumbledeal.com.
Bumbledeal.com is locally owned, serving Reno and Sparks with awesome deals from local merchants.
That's why we're buzzing.
Why is Bumbledeal.com your best bet for super savings and fun?
You get 50 to 90% off in local shops and earn free honey money when you refer a friend.
But wait, there's more.
It's the only deal that gets better every day till it goes away, but don't wait too long or it's gone.
Okay, get deals like this: 86% off childcare, 86% off vocal lessons, 82% off eyelash extensions, 80% off a luscious mineral bath, up to 90% off dining.
That's why we're buzzing.
There's no better way to enjoy life, save money, and support our local economy.
The buzz is on the locally owned Daily Deal, where you get 50 to 90% off in local shops and support 2 local businesses with every awesome deal. Only at bumbledeal.com. Log on and join today.
Announcing Scampi, Reno's newest pasta house and bar. It creates your business casual lunch and fine dinner dining. For lunch and dinner, an amazing selection of Scampi dishes, along with homemade ravioli, gnocchis, and lasagnas are freshly prepared for you on the premises. Indulge yourself with classic Scampi with white wine lemon butter sauce, Scampi Diablo made with spicy marinara sauce, or Scampi with marinated artichoke hearts. Enjoy homey desserts like tiramisu, creme brulee, and cannoli are created for you on the site as well. To fit with your New Year's fitness resolution, don't forget to try On the Light Side their large array of fresh and grilled salads and healthy sandwiches. Scampi is centrally located on the corner of Liberty and South Virginia at 425 South Virginia Street, across from the Federal Building in the heart of Reno's Midtown District. You can park for free in the garage or in the adjacent parking lot. For reservations, call 775-284-0660.
Welcome back to Vibrant Life Radio Show. We're speaking today with Dr. Michael Lewandowski, who is a pain psychologist expert. He's written a book on pain, the Chronic Pain Care Workbook, which you can get at Amazon and Barnes & Noble and
On an ebook.
On an ebook.
My favorite way to get books.
So and I recommend it very highly. Anybody that has a loved one or maybe themselves are suffering from chronic pain, I would definitely pick up that book. There's a lot of good information and a great self-assessment stuff. And on the subject of self-assessment, we left talking about, we're going to talk about the self-management approach to chronic pain. Can you expound on that? Because I know this is your concept.
Well, indeed, when people have pain, we begin to develop certain kinds of thoughts about living with pain. And so a huge part of what I do as a pain psychologist is try to kind of assess that, see what kind of patterns that they may be falling into in terms of thinking about their pain. And over the years, one of the most common researched ideas about pain is something we call catastrophizing. And catastrophizing is where you experience a pain flare-up, and you begin to then say, oh, I can't handle this. This is too much. This is awful. And we know that people that do engage in catastrophic thinking typically are more depressed, show higher pain behaviors, and are more dysfunctional and have a more difficult time with their pain than people who catastrophize less. So it's as a psychologist, this is the area that I find most fruitful, is looking at how people view it, the view they take of their problem. And we know that that's a big issue. And there's a few quotes that I've learned over the years that have been very helpful to me. One of them is by a colleague of mine who is a psychologist up at the University of Washington, Wilbert Fordyce, who said that people who have better things to do suffer less. And what happens with pain is that our world shrinks. We do less and less, and we become, our world becomes less important or less meaningful, and our suffering level goes up. Right. So quite a bit of what I do as a pain psychologist is really help treat the suffering, the emotional suffering component of pain. So one of the things I try to do is to get people to use concepts such as modification. The golfer who said, I can't play golf ever again, black and white thinking, and catastrophically says this is awful and terrible, who's now going to the golf course on Saturday putting on the putting green with his friends, still engaged in that activity.
So you try to get patients back into activity, maybe not the activity that they were performing, but some activity.
Well, which leads me to another real helpful quote from my experience, which is movement is life. If we stop moving, we stop living. And there was a great article in 1984. Walter Bortz wrote it. It's in the Western Medical Journal, and he talked about the disuse syndrome. And actually, speaking of golf, we used to walk 18 holes, but today now we take a cart. Yeah. And so we're not moving as much. And he outlined back in 1984 all of the medical problems that occur when we stop moving. And so a big part of the push in my book is that movement is life. We have to keep moving in order to keep living.
In my training, my first fellowship was in geriatric dentistry. And one thing I learned, and we're going back over 26 years ago, was that the single most important factor in aging had to do with ambulation. Once you lost the ability to walk, get up and walk to the store, get up and walk to the refrigerator, or just walk the dog, anything like that, once you lost the ability to ambulate, the aging process just accelerated almost arithmetically.
It's absolutely true. The other phrase, Helen Hayes, an old movie star, said, if you rest, you rust. And I think she knew.
Use it or lose it.
And when it comes to chronic pain, rest is not best. Acute pain, if you have an injury, we strain an ankle, it is good to get off of it. Rest is very helpful. But when pain becomes chronic, rest is no longer best. And the other thing that I've learned that's been very helpful is that hurt doesn't mean harm. Oftentimes, the folks that I see come in saying, well, if I'm hurting, I've harmed myself. And if I've harmed myself, I'm not going to do anything. I need to lay down, or I need to see the doctor, or go to the emergency room. And, if you haven't jogged in a while and you start, you're going to have sore, hurting muscles. But that doesn't mean that you've harmed yourself.
That's good pain.
That's actually very helpful pain, yes.
The one thing about, I've got kind of a bad knee and bad ankle on the right side, and I agree with you completely. The more I arrest it, because I think that's what I should be doing, actually the more it hurts. The more I get my butt on that bike and I do an hour on the bike, if I'm very consistent with that, I'm nearly pain-free.
Yeah.
And I think that may be a misconception, because pain is important, but acute pain, in my opinion, has a lot of value.
Well, pain is an extremely important signal. I mean, it's survival for...
It is, but chronic pain, and correct me if you disagree, but chronic pain has absolutely no value.
Yeah, it is debilitating. And we don't really still know the complete physiology of what's that transition point from acute to chronic pain, and why does all of a sudden that valuable signal become not valuable? They're doing a lot of research in that field, certainly, and it's a challenge. I mean, I respect every person that comes into my office as having real pain, and that it's not easy, and they can get really stuck. So,
well, do you find? I know from talking with you in the past. I mean, I do medical massage therapy on patients that are chronic pain patients as well, and I do see the psychology of some people is to dwell in it, and it becomes a tool to manipulate others in their family. That's a terribly negative to say, but I mean, in some cases, it occurs that way, where the pain has just become a part of life, and it becomes so much a part of their existence and their way of dealing with others that they don't really want to come away from that pain. And so part of your job is to overcome that kind of thing as well, which is really, I'm sure, difficult.
Pain's interesting because I say it's like the wind. It's invisible. We can't see it. We can only see the effects of it. So, if the trees are moving outside and the leaves are blowing, it must be windy. We can't see the wind. And for a lot of people, having their pain not be visible and seen by other folks is very challenging. I had a lady once tell me, I wish my pain was like a cut on my arm and it was bleeding all down my dress. People would come to me, they would know, and they'd come to me and help or do something.
Right.
That's the one thing about pain is that, especially in my world with TMJ problems, you cannot measure a TMJ problem. You can't measure pain. You can measure how wide the mouth opens. You can measure when it clicks and pops or locks. You can palpate and things like that, but you can't measure it. There is no way to measure pain. That makes it very difficult. You know, you talked about chronic pain, and in my world, I don't think that there is any patient of mine that's dealt with chronic pain that doesn't have some element of depression, which really complicates things. And comment, if you would, a little bit about the relationship between chronic pain and depression.
Well, depression can affect people. It's a depressed mood. It's feeling sad and blue for more days than not is part of that. There's a cognitive part of depression. There's a physiological part. With pain, sometimes it gets confusing because a lot of the physiology could really be pain symptoms rather than symptoms of depression. Nonetheless, 70% of the people I see have depression in addition to their chronic pain problem. And pain can be depressing. It's very easy to, when all of a sudden your ability to engage in fun activities is taken away or minimized in some way, the fun meter goes down. So it's very normal for me to see people that have pain who aren't able to get up and move around to be depressed. It's a natural consequence. So,
are there things out there and maybe others that are suffering in like ways, other chronic pain patients where they could maybe get together and talk about it amongst themselves?
Yes, actually there is. It's a very good question. There's actually a group called Chronic Pain Anonymous it's actually out of the hospital in Carson City, Behavioral Health Center, and they meet weekly. And it's a non-professional group, just people with chronic pain, and a fellow by the name of Chuck runs that, and he's done a fabulous job in the community helping other people with chronic pain. And so I would strongly encourage people to look at that. And it's at the Behavioral Health Hospital, Unit B, the corner of Minnesota and William Street. The phone number for contact for those who are interested in the local area is 775-443-9577. And he's done a wonderful job helping others. And the interesting part is it helps him.
Right. Well, it's like any other kind of like a grievance group or people who have lost their spouses and things like that. It's just so helpful to find other people that are in the same situation.
And I think the important thing about this group is that it doesn't turn into just kind of a complaining session. He has some format that he uses that eliminates the tendency for some support groups to turn into just a complaint session.
Coping mechanisms and things.
And so, yes, it's very proactive and positive, and
That's
so
good.
I strongly support that.
Oh, we need to have that in Reno, too.
I know. We should get Chuck to do that up here.
Yeah, have two groups. Yeah. Definitely.
Again, for those who are listening that are interested, and pull over the side of the road, pull out a pen, and write this on the back of your hand. It's Chronic Pain Anonymous, and located at the Behavioral Health Hospital, Unit B, you said, corner of Minnesota, down in Carson City. Just write down the phone number. It's 775-443-9577. Again, 775-443-9577. You know the fellow that
would get you
this.
in touch with Chuck, yes.
Yeah.
And he's
who's Chuck?
Chuck is actually a person that I work with chronic pain who, after spending some time with him, decided he wanted to help other patients and other people suffering from pain and started this group.
That in itself is probably helping him get out of a depressed mode, and he's having some socialization twice a week. And
absolutely.
I think that's wonderful.
In his case, as he said, his pain is inevitable, but his misery is optional.
Words of wisdom.
Great quote.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes,
Well, if you had one or two pearls of behavioral changes for a chronic pain patient, what would be number one? Get off your butt and get out and do something?
I think I would probably just go back to that. Movement is life. And as hard as it may seem, that's the one strategy that really would be the centerpiece for any type of self-pain management. Anything related to pain management is try to get up and get moving.
And if somebody felt very helpless, well, I can't get up and do anything, that would probably be, in my opinion, the best time to give you a call.
Absolutely.
Just help with some coping skills, help with that activity.
Absolutely. And, that's part of what people in my profession do, is we help as kind of motivators and have people begin to look at their patterns of behavior and what's working and what isn't.
Hey, Dr. Lewandowski, I know you have to get back to your clinic. Can we hold you back for another 5 more minutes, or do you have to get going?
5 more minutes is fine.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Lewandowski. Again, it's Vibrant Life Radio Show. We're talking to behavioral psychologist, pain expert, Dr. Michael Lewandowski. When we come back, I want to ask him a quick question about, talked about sleep and pain. We'll just talk a few minutes about that.
At Bloom Bake Shop in Reno, our goal is to help you celebrate all of your special occasions. Whether you're running short on time or you just don't have the skills or desire to bake fresh, homemade desserts for your friends and family, I'm here to help. This is Chandra with Bloom Bake Shop and Floral, and I've been baking ever since I could reach the kitchen counter. I bake everything from cookies and birthday cakes for your celebrations to wedding cakes and flowers for the most special day of your life. I was raised here in Reno, and my reputation depends on providing the best desserts you've ever tasted. If you'd like to set up a tasting for your upcoming wedding cake, or if you'd just like to satisfy your sweet tooth, let me help you celebrate your next special occasion. You can give me a call at 775-287-8905, or you can see Bloom Bake Shop on the web at www.bloomreno.com. Let Bloom Bake Shop make your day a little sweeter.
Debbie, I just walked by Proper Fit right here in Reno Town Mall. Yes. Are you familiar with the Dansko shoe line?
Why, yes, I am, Eddie.
Well, let me tell you what. The Dansko shoe line, for the very first time now, has tennis shoes for women.
Ooh, wow.
You're not going to believe this. Now, let me tell you what. They are slip resistant. They come in every beautiful, bright color you can imagine, and a combination of colors. They're lightweight. They come in all sizes. And for those women who would prefer to have a clog, they even have colored clogs over there, because for the first time now, Dansko has tennis shoes for ladies.
I am really happy to hear that.
Okay, now remember, listeners, I want you to get a hold of Michael over at Proper Fit. Give him a call, 775-323-3757. His number again, 775-323-3757. Tell Michael you want to see those Dansko tennis shoes for ladies right here at Proper Fit in Reno Town Mall.
If you or someone you love suffers from the devastating effects of a TMJ disorder or obstructive sleep apnea, we have good news. There's hope. Going from doctor to doctor looking for relief but not getting answers only adds to the pain. At the TMJ Therapy and Sleep Center, we would like you to get to know us, what we do, and how we can help you move beyond jaw pain, headaches, sleep disorders, and medication so that you can enjoy a more vibrant life. Dr. Allman is not only a general dentist, but one of the foremost experts in the country in the field of TMJ disorders and obstructive sleep apnea. Utilizing the most state-of-the-art technology, we have the tools to accurately diagnose the cause of your condition. The TMJ Therapy and Sleep Center listens to you and gives you real answers to your most important questions. What really matters is that you get the help you need. Call us at 825-7200 or visit us at our website, tmjreno.com. That's tmjreno.com, because you deserve a more healthy, vibrant life.
Welcome back, everybody, to Vibrant Life Radio Show. I hate to say it, but this is our last segment of the week, and this has gone by so quickly. We've had so many questions. We really appreciate the Facebook questions. Jason from...
I think is from Michigan.
Jason from Michigan.
Yes.
Brother, we feel and hear your pain, and what Dr. Lewandowski has offered to do is send you a copy of his chronic pain care workbook. So let's get some information to Deb on that, and we'll get that out to you, Jason. Thank you so much. Again, if you have a phone call, very quickly, Dr. Lewandowski has about only 5 more minutes or so with us. Give us a call, 827-8900, and we can hopefully he'll have time to field a call or two. Back on since we don't have a call, back to the question of pain and sleep. And I know that the worse sleep apnea is for a patient, the worse the Beck Depressive Index. So the worse the apnea, the worse the depression, just from sleep apnea. But talk a little bit about pain and how it affects sleep.
Well, some of the estimates in the research shows anywhere from 50 to 80% of people with chronic non-malignant disorders have sleep complaints. And truly, that's probably the number one problem I see separate from chronic pain is that their sleep's disturbed. And it's understandable. If you're not feeling good and you're hurting, and as you roll over, it wakes you up. Certainly, pain is a major factor in disturbed sleep. Interestingly enough, many of the folks that I see, due to chronic pain, inactivity, have gained some weight. And with the issues of weight gain comes the potential problems of obstructive sleep breathing. Mm-hmm. And a significant number of the people that I see do have obstructive sleep apnea. The good news is that if they get a consult and a sleep study and talk to people like yourself, Dr. Ullman, who do TMJ analysis and look at the jaw in combination with sleep medicine docs, treatment through advancement devices and possible CPAP machines change the picture. It's a dramatic change. I've seen a number of my patients who were kind of very cranky and irritable get a sleep study, see a sleep medicine specialist and a dentist, and the combined team effort brought an advancement device along with a CPAP machine, changed this person's irritability because their pain was less because they were sleeping better. Right. So I think it's very important, again, I emphasize this team approach where we have multiple disciplines looking at this individual, not just a psychologist doing pain work, but also taking a look at how it affects other physiological functions such as sleep.
And maybe the isolation that the patient feels was due to their irritability and their if you're not very affable, people aren't going to want to hang out with you.
Correct. And then your world shrinks, and now depression becomes a concomitant problem in addition to the pain.
Exactly.
So, yeah, sleep is a huge issue. And every pain patient that I see, I take a look at issues of daytime sleepiness. If you're dozing during the day, that's a pretty good indicator that you may have a sleep-related breathing disorder and probably should see someone for that. So.
Yeah, I harp on that all the time. That's such a big problem. In fact, I had a patient in the office today who has a child who is suffering terribly with sleep apnea and has been misdiagnosed with ADHD. And she had gone to the mother was over at the University of was over at Davis, and I guess the world's authority or the country's authority on ADHD is in Davis, and so Kara had an appointment and spoke with this gal for about 20 minutes. And found that this expert on ADHD had no concept of the relationship between sleep apnea and ADHD, where there's a lot of literature that suggests there is. Now, imagine with depression, it's the same thing. You have a lot of people, unlike yourself, you're very sleep apnea savvy. You're always looking for that being sideblinded by poor sleep. But I would imagine a lot of your colleagues just don't even consider the fact that poor sleep could be exacerbating their pain and their depression.
Once again, it just reinforces this interdisciplinary model and the fact that we need to work from that as the foundation. It all interacts, so it's extremely important to look at the whole person.
Yeah, I think it's exciting.
Not just a part.
Yeah, I think it's exciting in this community that we've developed a virtual Mayo Clinic model in that whether it's allergy or pain psychology or sleep or cardiology, even retinal surgeon. We've got some great guys and gals that work together, and we talk to each other, we phone each other, which I think is very unusual. Because when we talk about that model of, say, working with a behavioral psychologist, sleep and chronic pain, that isn't that common. And I imagine in your work you found that those multidisciplinary relationships, which are really important, don't really exist as much as we think or ought.
Well, 2 weeks ago I gave a lecture to the med students at the university, and one of the big messages I tried to share with these new upcoming doctors is that it really is a team approach. You don't have to do this alone. And they were receptive to it. I did. It was interesting. I asked them a question: do they believe the mind and body interact? And I had them all stand up. And I said, if you believe that the mind and body interact, go ahead and sit down. And I was very pleased. 100% of them sat down.
You were like, am I supposed to stand up or sit down?
I was prepared to say that if you don't believe the mind and body interact, please stand for the rest of this lecture, and we'll see how you feel at the end of it.
Then you'll know. Hey, Dr. Lewandowski, I know you have to head out, but what's new on the horizon when we're dealing with pain management and treatment methods? What's new? Is there
they're mapping the brain. They're doing some very interesting things. We used to think the brain was pretty static and not changeable, but it is very plastic. And the most exciting research such as looking at PET scans, looking at how the brain interacts, and they just recently showed that there's a difference in the mapping of the brain from physical pain versus emotional pain. So it's going to be fascinating in the next 25 years what that aspect, that field of medicine will bring to the field of medicine and to pain management in particular.
Sure. Well, we better let you go. I know you've got to head out, but I'm going to just tell a quick story while you're on your way out, Michael. You go
Thank
ahead.
you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lewandowski, for being here.
Before your story, 1 second. Thank you again, Dr. Lewandowski, for being here. I know you have to run. Hey, if you want to get a hold of his book or get a hold of Dr. Lewandowski, give him a call at 775-233-4590. Again, that's 775-233-4590. Just an expert. You have a story? I have a couple stories to tell too, but go ahead, honey.
Well, it was funny because I was with a group of women last night, and one of them, her husband had just had a golfing incident similar to what you were talking about earlier, where he was overswinging for too long a period of time, ended up with this back injury. And her dilemma was, and she was describing this to me, and I said, gosh, that is just so common, speaking of interdisciplinary approach and things like that. It was confounding to her why doctors didn't work together, because you go to, say, an orthopedic clinic, and then they tell you, okay, you have to go over here to a physical therapist, and some other people say, oh no, you need to go over here to a chiropractor, and maybe you should go to a massage therapist, and everybody has a different approach to it. But each of the individuals that they went and approached wanted to be the be-all to end-all, the hero, the only one that had the answer to this poor man's problem. And I said, well, I think what your goal should be is to find practitioners in this area here in Reno that will work together and that will agree that sharing your notes, sharing your information about the patient and maybe your perspective on the patient is really the only way to come to a solid process of healing, rather than to just, the physical therapist has got to be the only one touching you because they've got the only answer. It doesn't really work that way, as we've had experiences time and time and time again. When everyone shares information and works together with the patient, looking at their whole body and taking a whole body approach versus I want to be the Lone Ranger approach, it always seems to work out better for the patient.
Yeah, I know that a lot of doctors are very concerned about second and third opinions, and I relish them. I enjoy second and third opinions. I think the more doctors, therapists, taking a look at the same patient, the better. Yeah. And I think, a big red flag for me, for those listening, would be, a doctor that all of a sudden changed their demeanor or became defensive, whether it's ego or I don't know. But I just don't believe that patients should be made to feel guilty for seeking other opinions. I love second and third opinions. In fact, I'm sent patients all the time for second and third opinions. I'll have patients, maybe they heard about the UCSF pain clinic or the Stanford pain clinic. So they'll go out, and the first thing I want to know is, what did they find out? What was the diagnosis? Yeah. What would they bring new to the table?
They share their notes, too. That's the thing. It's not just about second opinions. It's sharing information. So if there's you and an ENT and a sleep, pulmonologist and neurologist or, any number of people, you want to share all of the notes that they've taken. You want the doctors to be able to pass the information back and forth. So you have 6 sets of eyes looking at you as a whole body, not just one set of eyes with an ego.
I know that you're a trained medical massage therapist, and you have a lot to offer when it comes to a discussion, whether it's post-surgical pain, chronic or acute pain. I know you work on a lot of our patients. And what are some of your thoughts about what's being overlooked? I know with chronic pain, people become introverted, and there's a loss of just physical touch. And I'm not talking about sex, just physical touch.
Oh, definitely. A lot of times what's happened with a chronic pain patient is that people pull away from them because they do get moody, they do get depressed, they do become more difficult to be around. And so as their friends and family move away from them, they do lose that feeling of being in an intimate position. And we're not that type of intimacy. We're talking about just physical touch. And I've had many patients just break down and cry on the table because they hadn't been touched in so long. Everybody had pulled away from them. Nobody was willing to be around them, let alone touch them. And many times it's just that. Another thing I find, most patients have been told by one person or another that, your pain is coming from this one area. Maybe it's the cervical region or something like that. What isn't discussed oftentimes, unless maybe you're within the chiropractic or physical therapist range, is that compensatory pain is where, you're feeling pain in one area, but it's actually coming from a completely different area. And so many physicians tend to look at the one spot that you hone in on. So my lower back hurts.
That's the thing about chronic pain. Whatever, if it's chronic pain, whatever hurts ain't the problem.
It could be a number of other things.
What a fantastic discussion. Hopefully we can invite Dr. Lewandowski back. We've got a lot. I'd like to go over some of his questions and how they were developed. So, Vibrant Live Radio Show. Join us next week. We'll invite Sally Berger, who is community's dog expert on
one of the
community's dog expert.
Thanks for
Bye,
being
everybody.
with us.
Thanks for being with us. Vibrant Live Radio Show.